The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to Garden Connections. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. On today's show, we're out here at our farm at Silver Bee Farm, and Amy Pleimling, a registered dietitian, is going to be one of our guests. She's going to help us understand why eating fresh from our garden is a really good thing. We'll also be visiting a garden in Rochester, Minnesota. They have a beautiful wooded, shaded area. They have swings, they have dahlias, they have a working water wheel. And of course, we'll get a great recipe from Chef Chef Larson. I hope you'll stay with us. Garden Connections is next. We're here at Silver Bee Farm, and Amy Pleimling, a registered dietitian, is our special guest. Welcome to the garden, Amy.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So, registered dietitian, that sounds very official. Tell us what it is that you do.
Well, right now, registered dietitians can do a number of things. I work in a clinic and educate patients on a daily basis on any number of diseases. So, diabetes, losing weight, just disease prevention, children and their growth, things like that.
Okay, and it all has to do with what they eat,
It
right?
all has to do with what they're putting in their mouths and how it affects their health. Yep.
Okay, so when you are working with patients, what are some of the kind of key guidelines that you give folks, just overall?
Overall, you do see a lot of repetition. So you're almost always talking to people about portion sizes. Okay. How much are you eating? And is it of the good stuff then you should eat more of?
Right.
Or are we talking about things we need to start looking at decreasing portion sizes of?
Right.
But always the repetition, no matter what the disease state, with a few exceptions, is pushing fruits and vegetables.
Okay, I was going to ask you, you mentioned good stuff, and it seems like every day we read a headline that says, one day this is good for you, no, that's bad for you, oh wait, no, it is good for you. How do you decipher, as a professional, some of those studies that come out? How do you determine really what qualifies as good stuff?
Well, it can be very confusing, and I always tell my clients to really kind of sift through that nutrition information and look where their sources are coming from, because you can find things on TV, magazines, you know, your family, that type of thing. So what we do as registered dietitians, that's more of our job, to kind of sift through that information, look for the research, what's really research and what's proven fact. And that takes a lot of years. So it isn't just maybe one study, but it's years of studying something. For example, we know that fat, too much fat isn't good, and that's been in research.
Right.
So that's what we talk about with our patients.
All right, sounds good. You also love working with children. You're a published author. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about why working with kids is so important.
Oh, well, it's a huge passion of mine. I truly believe in prevention, of course, and hitting kids and educating them when they're young seems to be so important, and it can be very impactful, especially when they're young enough to be excited about making the right choices and learning and showing their family.
More adventurous.
Yeah, it's just great, and I find you're not only educating the child, but they take that information to their family. So they're educating their family as well. So it just goes on and on.
Sounds great. Well, we are going to go through the garden and take a look at some of the things that you can eat fresh out of your garden, things that you can grow at home. So while we go find some things to collect, we're going to send you to Rochester, to the home of Dick and Ruth Vries. Dick, you have a beautiful place here. You guys have done a ton of work. This is just gorgeous.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
It's great. You know, the thing that strikes me about the yard here is the water. You know, water is a wonderful feature to include in a garden, but you've got something special going here. You actually have natural springs. How did you discover them?
We knew they were here, but it was a pretty big mess in that this was all just buckthorn and brush and undesirable trees, a lot of box elder.
Hard to believe that the way it looks now.
And it was real thick. I did some clearing, and we did patches at a time of putting in the grasses, and finally got to the point where I wanted this pond.
Okay.
However, the first thing I built was actually the fireplace up on top of the hill that you see up there.
And you've got some beautiful stone that you used. Did you find that on the site?
A lot of that was right local here. Some was in a dump site, actually. just west of here.
Okay.
And of course, the bigger the stones, the faster they lay out. So
That's right.
I tried to be quite selective. And later on, like this wall here now, that's all pretty small stones. But it keeps the water contained, not going into the fish pond.
So the water from the natural springs doesn't go in the fish pond.
It doesn't.
It just comes on this creek here.
We fill it with water from the springs. We have natural water.
Okay.
If the springs aren't running, then we need to use city water, and then we're fighting the chlorine and so forth.
Right. I understand one of your specialties is dahlias. Tell me a little bit about your dahlia collection.
Oh, sure. The Breezes have been known for dahlias for a long time. In fact, we have a variety that has been planted and dug. They need to be dug every fall and preserved in a non-freeze environment.
Okay.
It's 80 years old.
80 years old.
Oh
my goodness.
It was given to my parents at their wedding. And how long my grandpa had it before there, I do not know.
You don't know. Well, then
But
you've got a big
it's at least 80
responsibility
years.
to
keep that
it going. Aside from dahlias, what's your favorite part of this garden?
The pond.
The pond. All right. And you've got some really interesting plants that you've got here. What is this giant? It's a hosta. But do you recall the variety?
Yes.
It's just beautiful. It's such a chartreuse green.
Sun and Substance. I'm sorry I hesitated on that.
Okay.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed through the years is the different plants that you can buy right out of your local Kmart or
Big
flower
box store,
shops.
or nursery,
and it does well on the pond. You see the impatiens, or copia back there. Marigolds, they're floating right in the pond.
They are.
There's
And you get this really nice ground cover here too.
This is Pachysandra.
Okay. Looks great. And your allium that you showed me earlier is just enormous.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Really
When it's in bloom.
That looks terrific. So this takes a lot of work, and you come from a farming background, so hard work is you're no stranger to that.
Well,
but do you and Ruth ever get a chance to get out here and simply enjoy the
sure.
space?
See that bench there? That's where we love to sit and feed the fish in the evening.
Okay, great.
And the tree frogs, early spring.
Okay.
We actually had one drop out of the tree into the pond. And I actually thought a neighbor had come up behind him throwing a pebble over and it sucked behind me. Here we finally saw this little frog come out of the water.
Out of the water,
and
fell
he
out
dropped
of the tree.
out of the oak tree.
That's funny. You also have some visitors now and then to entertain themselves on some of the swings that you put up here.
Yes, they seem to enjoy that.
That is wonderful.
And we are always glad to see kids have fun.
Have fun in the space. You really have made this just a beautiful place for a family to enjoy. You've got hammocks to rest in, benches, as you mentioned, and swings. This looks great.
It's been a work in progress.
Well, it looks pretty fantastic for a work in progress.
Thank you.
Well, let's go check up with Ruth and find out what she's doing in her corner of the garden.
Okay, Stephanie. Thank you.
Ruth Dick just gave me a great tour of the upper part of your backyard and the natural springs that came through, but I'm interested in learning more about the flowers that you tend in this garden. Tell me about the garden that we have here behind us and what you've put in it.
Oh, well, we kind of started out with lilies, and now we've added the delphiniums. We have some petunias. I always put sweet alyssum in the front, and a few other things we have. I just wanted some color out closer to the street. The rest is back quite a ways, and I like to have something out closer to the street.
With those Asian lilies, do you have to dig up the bulbs every year?
No, the Asiatic lilies, they stay.
All right.
So most of this is perennial. I add the sweet alyssum every year. Sometimes I will put in seed for sweet alyssum, and sometimes I buy plants.
Okay.
And actually, most of the petunias are self-seeded also. They just come up year after year.
Oh, that's great.
In the spring of the year, this is tulips and daffodils.
So you have a changeover.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
in the spring. And that's kind of, Dick built the windmill a few years ago.
Because I understand he has a Dutch heritage.
He does. He has a Dutch heritage.
With a name like Breeze, you can kind of see that.
Yes. And so with the tulips, we thought the windmill would look nice for the background. The tulips are basically red and yellow, and we bought most of them out in Holland, Michigan when we went out for the Tulip Festival out
wonderful.
there. So that was fun to have a change. And then in the fall, you know, I'll add some mums.
All right, so ever changing. How much time do you spend out in this garden, in this yard?
Oh, in the yard, you know, we spend some time almost every day.
Every day.
Unless we're gone. We like to get out early in the morning when it's cool and do most of our work then.
And you've had a nice year for that too.
We have. It's been good.
So what's your favorite spot in the garden?
I love to sit above the swing in the double seats we have up there, the Adirondack chairs, and overlook the pool. Or not the pool, it's really the pond.
It's the pond, yep.
Yes. I love to sit up there. One of the last big projects was the wishing well up there, which is also made of limestone.
Of limestone as well.
Yes, the limestone all comes from the Rochester area. The small boulders or, you know, hard rocks that he used come from a farmer friend by Stewartville.
Nice. I bet he's glad to get rid of them too.
Well, they're glad to get rid of them, and we're more than happy to have them.
To take them. Now I saw a fenced-in garden in the back. You also do vegetables?
Just a few vegetables.
Just a
You know,
few.
we have some deer out here.
I bet that's a challenge with the wooded area.
It is. And so the first few years we were here, I tried raising vegetables, but you know, I don't like to use spray on vegetables, so I just have kind of given up on the vegetables. We have a few tomatoes and some zucchini, but I don't do a lot of vegetables.
I had a friend recommend cayenne pepper spray on their vegetables to keep the deer away. I just heard that just the other day. I have not tried it yet to see
and
if it
that'd
works.
be very safe.
But
so
yeah, just a
that would
natural
be-
thing to
Sure.
give it a try. Well, you have a beautiful place here, and Dick was showing me a bench that you guys like to sit on when you actually take the time to enjoy your garden. So why don't we go relax a little bit after you've shown us around the garden.
Okay.
Here he is. We've come to join you with Dick.
Got a little frog actually trying to climb on top of the little beaver.
Oh, is that right?
He's moving that around. You can just see his head above the water.
That's cute. This is very relaxing. What a
lot.
great place to be.
Sometimes we come out here and it just, when they realize we're here, the frogs are just hopping all over the place.
Well, over here we have some yellow squash, and we'll grab one out of here.
Looks awesome.
They're looking good. All right, and we've got some carrots over here. Let's take a look at those. Maybe you can pick some out of that
All
row. We've got
right.
a couple of different varieties growing here. And they're just coming along. There we go.
Still look good enough to eat.
So yeah, they are great. So baby carrots for you. So when I'm out in the garden, often I'm so impressed by the color range that you see. Is color important when you're talking about nutrition and helping people figure out what to put on their plate?
It is so important, and it's such an easy way for people to understand. You know, you can communicate with people just by saying, eat a rainbow of foods. And you can also do that with kids, and they can kind of grasp what the message is by realizing that if they have more color on their plate, they're going to get more nutrition. So it is absolutely true.
All right. And seed companies are really helping out in that regard too. I know when my catalog comes in the spring, we now can get purple carrots and white
Yes.
carrots and yellow carrots.
All kinds of
besides the
different
traditional
colors.
Orange.
Yeah.
We do a rainbow shard that
Yeah.
has pink. I mean, a bright pink that you just wouldn't normally expect to see in nature. So
That is so cool, and it does actually affect the nutrient profile.
great. All right, good to know. So keep your plate colorful. One of the questions that I often hear from folks, and I've wondered the same thing myself, is we raise sweet corn and,
Sure.
and we think of field corn as being a grain. Is sweet corn a vegetable or is it a grain?
Well, you get that question a lot, and it kind of depends on who I'm talking to, actually. Obviously, it's a vegetable, but we call it a starchy vegetable. So that can kind of be the information that works for everyone. But when someone has diabetes, for example, they do need to know that it does provide that carbohydrate, and so they just need to count it into their plan. But by no means is it an unhealthy food. It's very full of nutrition and full of fiber. So I would always encourage you know, any vegetable as well as corn in your diet.
Potatoes often get that same rap as
Yes, they do.
You know, it's such a starchy thing, but potatoes have vitamin C as well.
They do, and a lot of fiber again. So potatoes, I do kind of fit into that category of very maligned food. You know, people are, you know, a little bit scared of them, a little bit scared of the calories, and think of the skin and what nutrition that has. So you're getting tons of fiber, really, you know, can be very satisfying for pretty low calories when compared to other foods.
Yeah. No, potatoes is a great one. That the basic vegetable is probably really good for you. It's sometimes when you're eating, it's the things you put on it that make a difference.
Like the butter and the sour cream.
Right.
Exactly. So, you know, I always encourage everyone to just use those things in moderation, but of course you have to enjoy your food as well.
Right.
And so if, you know, if it's a little bit of cheese or something that works to get kids or anybody to eat a potato, I say use that in moderation, but, you know, not to be overdoing those things, always looking at extra fat and calories as being not a good thing, but you're still getting the nutrition from the potato no matter what.
For some folks who really love vegetables or even are vegetarian, tell us a little bit about legumes. That's an often confusing term, but people turn to those sometimes for protein, is that right?
Oh, absolutely, and it's something that I do think that people are mostly unaware of, a little bit scared of. How do I eat them? Where do I find them? You know, that type of thing. But in your garden here, we'll look at peas.
Okay.
And those are, you know, a legume. And
we've got some dried beans too. They're not dry yet, but they're coming along.
So an excellent source of protein. Really, you're absolutely right. But also you do get the nutrition profile like the antioxidants, like the disease-fighting properties that all the other things in the garden here have today, Stephanie. But more plentiful in fiber, I'll say. So it's the fiber and the protein that make those legumes so special for vegetables.
Great. One of my favorites that has been having a great year so far this year is kale.
Sure.
We tend to make smoothies just about every morning with kale, and I know you can with spinach as well, but I'm terrible at growing spinach. Tell us a little bit about some of the greens, the leafy greens that people can eat, and the things that the nutrients that they'll get from them.
I think everybody has heard to eat more leafy greens, and it's a challenge just to do that, especially if you don't have them around or enjoy them, or again know how to prepare it. But the nutrition is just superb in leafy greens. For one, you actually get some calcium, and you get some iron in leafy greens.
Milk and calcium.
Right, and but it is in there. It's in there, and also the folic acid. So that's extremely important for heart disease, especially for males, and pregnant women really need to get their nutrition in, and so you'll hear a lot about getting the folate. Dark leafy greens are a great source of nutrition for folate, as well as kind of the long list. So a superfood, if you will.
Superfood. I love that idea. All right, great. Well, we're going to head off to another section of the garden, but in the meantime, we're going to send you to Chef Stephen Larson, and this time he has a recipe for heirloom baby potatoes. It's a salad. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Welcome to the kitchen. Baby heirloom potatoes are fun to grow and a tasty addition to really any dinner table, I think. I'm going to make a German-style potato salad with some baby heirloom potatoes. And the first thing we need to do is get some bacon cooked. So I've already started that here in the pan. I have 4 ounces of applewood smoked bacon that I've cut into a small dice. And I have that cooking over about a medium heat, just until the bacon is crispy and it's rendered out its fat. That's going to provide the basis for the sauce. We won't be adding any more oil or anything to this. To that, we're going to add a ½ cup of thinly sliced onion, and also a ¼ cup of small diced red bell peppers. Now we need to let these cook for just a minute or so to soften and sweeten a bit. All right, so once our onions and bell peppers are cooked, we're going to add a tablespoon of all-purpose flour to that. Now, this is going to provide a little bit of thickening for the dressing and keep it from separating when we mix it all together. We'll cook that for just a few seconds. Then we will add half a cup of chicken stock. You can turn the heat up to high. 1/3 of a cup of white wine vinegar. A 1.5 tablespoons of coarse grain mustard. Teaspoon of kosher salt, and a teaspoon of sugar. And we'll whisk that together. Just until it fully comes back to the boil. All right, that's good to go. Now we need to take care of our potatoes. So for that, I have 3 different kinds of heirloom potatoes hot in the bowl here. This is served warm or room temperature. So we're going to take them just right out of the pot and cut them up to use. We have a rose fin potato, which is kind of a pink potato. We have a German butterball, which is a yellow flesh potato, and then one of my favorites, all blue. Sliced into approximately 1/4 inch thick pieces. All right, in with the rest they go. And now for a bit of extra color and a nice little herbal pop, we will add some flat leaf parsley. I have approximately 1/2 cup of parsley leaves here. We're going to toss most of them in the salad. Now, the best way to chiffonade or finely shred herbs is to gather them up into a tight bunch, and then using the flat of your middle finger as a guide, go through with the chef's knife and slice it nice and thin. They don't need to go any further than that. Then we will add our dressing. Give that a good stir. Marvel at the wonderful colors. And then we'll transfer it to a nice plate for serving. Okay, so there we have it. Potato salad of baby heirloom potatoes. Add some color and fun to your next get-together.
So we picked some beets along the way, and we had several varieties here.
Yeah, look at that.
Going. We've got a golden beet, and then we have this is red ace, so it's a really dark one.
The darker.
And this is a Kyoja. It actually is striped on the inside. Looks like a peppermint.
Oh,
on the
cool.
inside.
Yeah, and look at all those 3 colors. And then including even these and the stems.
Yep.
Yeah.
In early spring, a lot of people will just eat these plain. You know, when you're thinning your beets, they
Sure.
just eat the greens, and they taste a little bit like beets, and it's just another variety. We were talking about greens, how to fit them in our diet.
Yep. Exactly.
Greens are great as
And if you look at, so you're looking at the colors here, and obviously something gives them their pigment. And so that is extremely powerful, what we call phytonutrients. You won't see it on a label, on a food label, or you won't hear vitamin C. You know, that these are phytonutrients that are really big words and that we don't need to discuss, but they're extremely powerful for disease prevention and cancer prevention, heart health. And so you're looking at the colors here. The beets are particular, very, very strong, and obviously one of these pigments. And then you get that, in the stem as well as in the green. So if you're going to eat the green, you get powerful antioxidants and phytonutrients that way as well.
Great. Another superfood.
Another superfood, yeah.
And here we've got some dill going. How about herbs? You know, we think of herbs as being kind of an accent piece, but what's the benefit of including herbs, fresh herbs in your diet?
Well, it's so fun to have a variety of different flavors, I think. And we talked a little bit before about enjoying the taste of your food. A lot of people that I work with, Stephanie, think that's the salt shaker. And so, we're talking about heart health and high blood pressure and looking at decreasing the salt in our diet. And so a good way to do that is to kind of let that salt shaker alone and add some herbs for flavor. And
Well, Amy, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. You've given us a great deal of information here, and one of the keys is eating colorful foods.
colorful.
From your garden.
Yes,
So thanks so much
and you are
for
very welcome. You
joining
have a
us.
beautiful garden. It's been lovely to be here today.
Thank you. We've had a great day.
We have.
And thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the program. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. We look forward to seeing you next time on Garden Connections. On Garden Connections, we'd love to see photos of your garden. Or if you have questions for our garden experts, contact us by emailing garden@ksmq.org or like us on Facebook.